Hello, my name is Damien Humphreys,
And I'm Luke Hindmarsh
and we are
in Deep Crit.
indeed, and today we're in Deep Crit, still looking at barbarians. So welcome back to part 3 of our series of videos on the barbarian class and the class features found within the various subclasses. In today's video we're looking at the classes presented in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, recently released by Wizards of the Coast. And these are the Path of the Beast and the Path of Wild Magic. So, without any further ado, on to the Path of the Beast.
So this is the path where you draw rage from a bestial spark within your soul. Maybe you've been a shapeshifter in your ancestry, there's some link there, or maybe you've learned the power from, what is it suggested, a grand druid or something like that. And as a result, you've got this table that suggests what your origin might be. But of course, this is just role-playing flavour. What we're really interested in is the mechanical side of things at this stage. So we come into the first feature, the form of the beast at 3rd level. And this allows you, using your bestial power, to manifest natural weapons. You have to make a choice. It counts as a simple melee weapon for you. You add your strength modifier to the attack and damage rolls when you attack as normal. But each time you rage, you have to make the choice. There's a selection of 3. The first option is a bite, which deals a d8 piercing damage on a hit, obviously. And once on each of your turns, if you damage a creature with your bite, you regain a number of hit points equal to your proficiency bonus, provided you have less than half your hit points when you hit. The next option are claws. I don't know whether or not you manifest them at the tipsy fingers or whatever. However they're going to come out in your mind, whether they're cat claws or dog claws, bear claws.
Chicken claws.
Yes. It could be. Hey, why not? Lethal. These are 1d6 slashing damage weapons. They transform. You can use as a weapon only if your hand's empty. Once on each of your turns when you attack with a claw, using the attack action, you can make one additional claw attack as part of the same action. So it's not a bonus action. Is that quite unusual for action economy? We'll talk about that in a minute, I think. Alternatively, you can grow a tail, which is lashing and spiny, and that can deal d8 piercing damage on a hit. Interesting. It's piercing damage. Has the reach property. If a creature within 10 feet of you that you can see hits you with an attack roll, so if they hit you, you can use your reaction to swipe your tail, roll a d8, and apply a bonus to your AC equal to the number you rolled, maybe making that attack hit. What do we think?
I think they're okay. I don't think they're particularly overwhelming. So you choose the weapons form each time you rage, and you have to keep it for that rage. I would prefer that they perhaps scaled up as you leveled up in this class. So perhaps maybe even do a bit less damage to start off with. So maybe the bite does a d6 at 3rd level, and then a d8 at 6th, 7th level, a d10 at 10th level, so on. And the same with the hit points you receive back does scale with your proficiency bonus, but it's still not particularly amazing. You know, if I'm a 3rd level barbarian with, let's say, 35 hit points, I need to have less than half to gain this ability anyway. Yeah. So I need to have lost 18 hit points to get 2 hit points back. It's
underwhelming.
It's underwhelming.
Very underwhelming, I think. If they had made it... Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, I think the claws are quite underwhelming as well. Okay, it's an extra attack before you get extra attack, but it's only a d6 damage.
Yeah.
Only
usable once.
And your strength modifier, so I guess you're getting your strength modifier an extra time. So versus a great sword, it's 2 separate attack rolls, but potentially it's still 2d6 plus your strength modifier twice. So maybe slightly better. and you still get your bonus action. But what are you doing with your bonus action? You've just raged on the first round, but after that, what are you doing with your bonus action?
It probably stacks with the extra damage from raging anyway.
Yeah, you get your extra rage damage, yeah.
So it's still not terrible for damage dealing, but it's not, as you say, it doesn't scale. And
doesn't scale, that's the main problem. And the tail, D8 piercing damage on reach, which is okay if there's a target that is, you've used all your movement and is just that bit further away and you want to hit it. I guess it's okay. I actually like the tail swipe feature on this most out of all of these at 3rd level. So when you're hit with an attack roll, so you don't even have to do this before you know whether you've been hit or not. It's once you know you've been hit, you can use your reaction to swipe your tail and roll a d8 and add that to your AC, potentially causing it to miss you.
Yeah, that's quite powerful.
Yeah, you nearly get it once because it's a reaction and it's only against that attack. But still, that could be
at early levels. It's less useful when you're facing multi attacks, but at early levels that might mean you take no damage, and can therefore be better than, say, for example, having a really strong resistance. Tail, I think, is also the reach. See, that plays up to tactical play. If you're already pretty mobile as a barbarian, so a way I always see reach weapons is okay. They can have a thing of where you're standing behind one of your allies, or adding to your range. If the enemy would be just out of range, but the reach weapon lets you get them. Great. But the way I tend to look at them as they're a free being able to attack without provoking attacks of opportunity. So attack and move on. Because you can hit at 10 feet, and unless what you're hitting has got reach, you're outside a risk of retaliation. So that for me makes the tail so much better. I did have concerns that the way the claws. So I initially read the claws incorrectly and thought it just gave you an additional attack on any. So when you hit 5th level and you get your extra attack, that would mean you'd get 4 attacks because of the claws. You don't. You literally get 1 extra. Nonetheless, still think it's possible that DMs might see this with, if you've got a pet power gamer in your group, they might be looking at some sort of interesting class build to try and maximize their action economy and get one more attack that they can combine with some other class feature from a different class that let them do another d8 damage, so they can claim that they've got the maximum amount of attacks. I'd watch it. It's very limited, and it needs to be seen to be limited.
And I think the DM needs to make that clear that it's just 1 extra attack when you take the attack action, not every attack you get.
With claws, you wouldn't be getting a bonus. So the way it's worded, this could mean that you're doing your extra attack with the same claw, so you've got another weapon in the other hand, which you can then get a bonus action weapon attack. I don't think that's rules as intended. The way they've written it, that's left open, I think. But I wouldn't allow that. I think that's clearly not what they intended to say.
It clearly states each of your hands transformed into a claw as well.
Yeah. Yes. So I agree. But there is a way you could get a bonus action attack. I think with the racial, depending on what your racial selection is here, one of the shifters.
The long-tooth shifter could get a bonus action attack with their own bite on the same round. So perhaps a Path of the Beast shifter may be a very thematic and more intriguing build than just, and if you have shifters in your campaign, obviously shifters were introduced in Eberron. It's up to your DM whether they exist in that campaign world if you're not playing in Eberron. So you mentioned before filming, it would be nice if you could choose this every round.
Yeah. So I think it's too limiting. You go into Rage and I tend to make my decisions about what my characters are going to do in situations long ahead of an actual battle, and then adjust my tactics to fit. And then maybe I'll have some sort of, I'm going to have to do something out out of the box here. But I'll have a number of strategies that I will then switch to. If an enemy does this, I will probably do this. This is what my game plan is. With this, it forces you to make a decision at the time you rage. I probably would take tail every time, which is sad because there will be times when bite or claws are more useful. Because you're forced to make the decision at the start of your rage, you're missing out. I don't think it would be overpowered to be able to just say, okay, I rage and I use this ability. At the start of my round, the start of my turn, I'm going to choose to use my bite. It means I don't get to use the claws. Or I'm going to choose to use my claws, I don't get to use the tail. But these are not so powerful that they need to be...
So all three are available throughout the rage, and you can choose on each turn, but you can only choose one on each turn.
Well, yeah,
I
once
think
you choose one of them,
perfectly reasonable.
I mean, maybe you could scale it. Maybe that could be another thing of scaling. You gain one of these features at 3rd level. At 6th level, you gain another of these features. You gain the option to have another of these features active, so you can't just use it. Then it might scale. That may be another way of scaling it. So you still get to choose, but you then could have another one running at the same time. Whether or not I don't think I would say you can bite and then use the tail reaction, but it would be an option for you to keep open. That could be another way of doing it. I don't know. As it is,
potentially. So that is Form of the Beast. The 6th level feature that you'll get on the Path of the Beast is Bestial Soul. So this increases the feral power within you, and the natural weapons that you form from Form of the Beast that you got at 3rd level now count as magical weapons for the purpose of overcoming resistance and immunity to damage, to non-magical attacks and damage. And now you can also alter your form to adapt to your surroundings. And this can happen after you finish a short or a long rest, and you get 3 choices after each rest, essentially, that you can make, or a choice of 3 options. So you could gain a swimming speed equal to your walking speed and be able to breathe underwater. You could gain a climbing speed equal to your walking speed, and you can climb difficult surfaces, including upside down on ceilings, without making an ability check. Or you can choose that when you jump, you can make an athletics check and extend your jump by a number of feet equal to the check's total. But you can only do that once per turn. So those are the 3 options available at 6th level.
Very nice to have the sort of your claws, your bite, your tail are effectively magical weapons. That's quite useful. Well, actually very useful. More useful in a low magic setting where the rest of the party may not have magic weapons at 6th level, or they may be hard to come by. In a campaign where by 6th level everyone's got a +1, probably a +2 magic item, magic weapon or whatever. This is just keeping up with. Trying to. I like the forms. I think swimming speed is always cool. It depends really on the campaign, though. Of course, I've had a fantastic underwater battle against a black dragon in one of your campaigns, which was amazing, really great fun. And luckily, I had saved a potion of water breathing, and that made a big difference. Although still was.
And we're using a spear to avoid. Having disadvantage on your attacks.
I still went down to 1 hit point. It's pretty cool, though. Pretty cool. I thought it was a great battle. I really enjoyed that, and that showed me how useful it would have been to have something like this on tap.
Yeah, that's it. Because if you have a swimming speed, then you don't have disadvantage on attacks with any weapons underwater, apart from ranged weapons.
Yeah.
Which would still have a disadvantage. And being able to breathe underwater, exactly. It's if you know there's a watery encounter coming up, you've got to traverse an underground river or an underground lake, or you've set sail on the high seas, and your DM's the type of DM that there's going to be some shenanigans whilst you're near that water.
Yes.
Take a short rest and change your form. Yeah, absolutely. Again with the climbing speed.
Oh yeah.
This is 3 slippers of spider climb for when you need them. This is great. As you know, having recently played a character with slippers of spider climb, who's needed to walk around various pits full of acid and all that kind of thing, and walk across rooms to avoid enemies. This is lovely. This is a really great feature.
Particularly if since you're a barbarian, maybe you've got stealth as a proficiency, and you've got no penalty to that because you're using unarmored defense, maybe, or light armor or something, and then being able to sort of, I as a DM would be like, well, they're not looking, unless you really screw up your stealth. It's going to have a very low DC on a stealth check to climb along the ceiling to get past behind the enemy lines. Okay.
Or even into the middle of the enemies, drop down in the middle of the enemies.
Yeah, absolutely. Your mileage may vary, and that's obviously DM dependent. Sorry, we're still in Dungeons and Dragons mode. DM dependent, but it's cool. I mean, what about jumping though? And that's.
I can see it being useful in certain circumstances. So, I mean, you can jump a number of feet equal to your strength anyway. By 6th level, I've probably got a strength at least of 18, probably 20, if I'm taking that ability score improvement. So I'm jumping 18 to 20 feet with no problem anyway. And I guess being able to add a little bit to that if there's a particular crevasse that you need to get over.
So jump wouldn't
jumping over
take an
difficult
action.
Terrain.
I can't remember. Off the top
No,
of
it's
my head.
part of your movement.
So it's part of your movement. So this could, combined with everything else, allow you, particularly with instinctive pounce and increasing your movement by 10 feet as part of being a barbarian anyway. Obviously, I don't think that's at 6th level, but anyway, when that synergizes, this lets you, say you've got a strength of 20, you're adding 5, then your proficiency bonus is going to be 3, 4 at 6th level? 5?
3, yeah.
3. So that's going to be straight off 8 plus the 1 from the D20 roll.
Yeah.
So you're going to be adding 9 to that additional movement by jumping.
So you're jumping 27 to 30 feet easily.
That, on top of whatever movement you might be gaining from. I don't know how would you rule that as a DM? How would you allow that?
It uses up your movement.
All of it.
It would use up that part of your movement. You need to have that amount of movement left to jump that far.
Okay.
It doesn't give you extra movement. So if you've got 45 feet of movement, you could maybe, do a 10 foot run up, 30 foot jump, and move another 5 feet.
Right. So it's not allowing you to add to your existing movement. No. Okay. All right. So that's.
But it's going to really upset that enemy druid or ranger who's cast Entangle in front of them to try and slow down the barbarian.
Yeah, absolutely. Over status effects. I mean, jumping through darkness.
Yeah.
I suppose also avoiding attacks of opportunity. Potentially, that might require a ruling from the DM.
Yeah.
Because how high are you going? Realistically, can they still swipe at you? I
think that, I would rule they could.
Yeah.
As you're jumping, as a long jump. Well, if you're jumping high, then I guess you get out of their reach. But yes. Anyway, that would be situational, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, anyway. That brings us to the 10th level feature, which is Infectious Fury. And when you hit a creature with your natural weapons, while you're raging, this is triggered, you effectively give them rabies. They've got a wisdom saving throw, which is a DC against your constitution modifier and proficiency bonus +8. And you then get to choose, if they fail, an effect where either they must use their reaction to make a melee attack against another creature of your choice that you can see, presumably that's in range of them, or they take 2d12 psychic damage. That's quite interesting because that potentially lets you, if they've got a ranged attack feature, they could make that ranged attack against,
It states melee attack.
Oh, does?
So,
Oh, sorry. I can't read this morning.
It's fine.
You can use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus and regain that when you finish a long rest. So that's cool. Okay, so...
I like this.
Yeah.
I like this as a 10th level feature, again, I guess it's thematic, like you said, you pretty much infect them with rabies, they go mad for a moment. 2d12 psychic damage is not to be sniffed at. That's a decent amount of damage at this level. And yeah, potentially getting them to attack their mate. You know, if there's a couple of them next to you, then you can do some extra damage to the one you're attacking, as well as the one that you're making your target attack.
Yeah.
And it uses up their reaction.
Which is very useful.
So potentially negating any opportunity attacks against anybody else who wants to move in and out of combat.
There's an extent to which this is also DM dependent. So, like how effective this is. So if I were DMing and I had a player use this feature on, say, a group of ogres or a relatively low intelligence group of enemies, they would interpret the attack of an ally as a betrayal, and potentially then that would start some fighting between infighting. Whereas more intelligent enemies might see through that straight away. And I think we talked about this briefly. You'd give a saving throw. Which is fair enough.
I'd rule that at the time. I'd give it, if it's ogres, trolls, something like that, maybe an intelligence saving throw to work out that Grog was forced to attack him rather than did it because he wanted to.
Yeah.
That could be make for a really amusing encounter. Those memorable encounters aren't always the big boss encounters, but sometimes they're the ones where some chaos is sown by either side, where it becomes. Well, there's some humour injected into it, and there's some unpredictability in it. I think I'd go with that as a DM. I wouldn't do it with intelligent creatures.
No. This is like that bit in The Hobbit with the trolls where they sort of start fighting each other. That's so that's good. That's a good feature.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, it's a nice 10th level feature. Which brings us on to the capstone ability. At 14th level, you will get Call of the Hunt. So this is where the beast within you is now so powerful that you can spread that ferocity to others, and you can gain resilience from them joining in your hunt. And when you enter your rage, you can choose a number of other willing creatures that you can see within 30 feet of you, equal to your constitution modifier minimum of 1. And you gain 5 temporary hit points for each creature that accepts this feature. And until your rage ends, each of those creatures can add a d6 to the damage when they hit with an attack roll until the end of your rage, and you get 5 temporary hit points for each one of them. So, and you can do that a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus and get all uses back after a long rest.
The interesting with this particular subclass that I think its abilities get much better as they go on, where some of them, their initial ability is best, and it doesn't really get beaten by their subsequent or even capstone abilities. Here the capstone ability it's not miles better than any of the others, but it's a good ability to have that. I mean, if you think about the number of people you're potentially adding, you could be getting quite a buff to your temporary hit points, which you have resistance potentially, depends on what the damage source is, but maybe you've got resistance against incoming damage, although at that sort of level that's less likely to be the case for this subclass. But still, it's good. It's giving damage to your allies.
We play with reasonably large groups, I guess, so in one of my games you might be getting 25 to 30 temporary hit points, which is nice. But even if you're only playing in a group of 4, you're still getting 15 temporary hit points, which is not to be sniffed at.
No.
And it's only a d6 bonus damage, but it's a d6 on every turn by every one of those creatures. It's that's going to help
until the rage ends. So it's
until the rage ends. Yeah.
That's potentially 10d6. 10 rounds, 10d6 damage for each ally, and it's a d6 on each time they hit and deals damage to a creature. So is that right? I'm not
with an attack
that.
roll. Yeah.
So by that point, the fighter's going to have quite a few hit.
Yeah, a fighter attacking 3 times. Yeah, that's
at least if they've got
3d6.
If they've got some ability to make use of their bonus action for attacks as well. This could be particularly powerful. The buff is actually better than it might seem initially, depending on party makeup.
Party makeup and the tactics you use, exactly. Because they all have to be within 30 feet of you. Doesn't say they have to stay within 30 feet of you. So if you do this right at the beginning of the combat...
Yes, you infect them, don't you?
Yeah.
It's the rabies theme.
This is positive rabies.
Positive. Oh dear. And that's our look at Path of the Beast, I think.
Overall, starts off pretty underwhelming, gets better as it goes along.
One of those. I was going to say one of those ones that you might want to use the optional feature within Tasha's to change your subclass.
Potentially, yeah.
If one were allowed to.
Or synergize it with the shifter race.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And have a proper wild animal barbarian. And if you ever really wanted to be your own animal companion, this is the subclass for you.
This is the furry's dream, isn't it? Enough on that. Stop that.
And this brings us on to the last path available in Tasha's Cauldron of everything, the path of wild magic. And many places around the multiverse are imbued with the power of magic, the Fey world. Perhaps you've been touched by a Fey. Perhaps you were born under a particularly lucky star, or maybe you're the seventh son of a seventh son of a seventh son, and you are imbued with this wild magic which fuels your barbarian rages. The first feature that you're going to get under this path is magical awareness at 3rd level when you choose the path. As an action, you can open your awareness to the presence of concentrated magic. Essentially, this is a free detect magic. Until the end of your next turn, you know the location of any spell or magic item within 60 feet of you that is not behind total cover. And when you sense a spell, you learn which school of magic it belongs to. And you can do this a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all of those uses when you finish a long rest. This is okay, right?
It's utility, it's nice enough. I suppose it goes very much to this sort of sense of being in touch with the magical, the veil being slightly thinner for you because you're in touch with your Fey side. You've been Fey touched.
Yes.
However, I think thinking about it in terms, and we're not here to compare classes, but in terms of the utility of this versus, say, the Eldritch Invocation a Warlock has, where they can just do it at will, to be limited with. I mean, it's not so powerful an ability, DM dependent, admittedly. It's not so powerful an ability that it needs to be limited by numbers of, by the proficiency.
No, bonus. I don't think so.
I don't think.
No.
But otherwise, cool.
Yep.
If there's something more to say, I'll talk about what
move on to the Wild Surge. Yeah.
The defining feature of the Path of Wild Magic is at 3rd level Wild Surge, and where the magical energy roiling inside you erupts. So whenever you enter Rage, you roll on the Wild Magic table. This doesn't seem to be optional. You have to do it. Some of the effects will require a saving throw, and the DC is your proficiency bonus Constitution modifier, add 8. The table itself is a D8, and the 8 options are quite different. Some of them are closer to each other than others. They are, let's just quickly go through them. You've got shadowy tendrils that do necrotic damage, D12 necrotic damage, and give you D12 temporary hit points. Although the damage done to your enemy requires a saving throw, Constitution saving throw, and the range of it is 30 feet. It doesn't scale, none of these do. Could be quite nice at low levels. It's each creature of your choice within 30 feet. Sorry, not just one. This could be extremely powerful at low level.
Yeah, and it doesn't use any action or bonus actions, so it's a bit of extra damage on each of your turns to anybody that's within 30 feet of you.
Rolling a 1, fantastic result. 2, you teleport to 30 feet to an unoccupied space you can see, and then until your rage ends, you can do that again as a bonus action. So the first usage doesn't seem to be a bonus action, but after that, it's a bonus action. Very nice for mobility if you get that,
Yeah.
I think.
If you want to turn yourself into the witch from Chortle and the Wheelies, then this is the role for you.
Yeah,
that's a very old reference, kids. Again, Google that one.
It's a deep cut that goes too deep for me, in fact. So. You teleport. So I mean, it's nice, but it doesn't scale. This is going to be. I'm going to sound like a parrot by the end of this. Number 3, you get this intangible spirit, which looks like a flump or a pixie, your choice, appearing within 5 feet of a creature of your choice within 30 feet of you. And at the end of the current turn, not your current turn, the current turn, the spirit explodes. Each creature within 5 feet of it must succeed on a dexterity save or take a d6 force damage, and you can use that effect until your rage ends, summoning another flump, because why wouldn't you summon a flump, as a bonus action on each of your turns. There's a problem with this, isn't there?
It's okay if
initiative order.
It's okay if you're low in the initiative and you've got a group of enemies together. If you're going first, then that's going to give the enemies a chance to move out of 5 feet range of it. Yeah, it's okay, but it's not great.
There's some battlefield control elements to that. So you put your flump in a place where it's going to blow up, and enemies then have to make a choice of staying where they are or fleeing from it.
Yeah.
But that's useful at low levels where a d6 force damage and a dexterity saving throw that has to be made for it is something to be concerned about. At high levels, who cares? So this scales off very rapidly as having any utility, in my opinion. 4, magic infuses a weapon of your choice that you are holding, and until your rage ends, you get force damage with it. It gains light and thrown property, so your two-handed greatsword can be lofted across the battlefield with a normal range of 20 feet and a long range of 60 feet, and if the weapon leaves your hand, it reappears in your hand at the end of the current turn. End of the current turn, not your current turn. Meaning that once you throw it, that's it. You're not. If you've got extra attack actions, you've got extra attacks as part of your action, or bonus action attacks, you're not going to be able to use that weapon. So you're totally useless if you're a polearm master, I should think.
The force changing the damage to force is quite nice. It's not massively resisted type of damage, so that could be quite nice. But yeah, it's free, I guess. It's not costing you anything.
Yeah, that's the best we can say about it. Again, it doesn't. I'm not going to say it doesn't scale. You can assume none of these scale. There we go. I've got it out of my system. Number 5. Whenever a creature hits you with an attack roll, the creature takes a d6 force damage as magic lashes out in retribution. It's always good.
Yeah, bit of extra
doesn't take
damage.
A reaction.
Force damage doesn't take any action, reaction, or bonus action. Yeah, it's fine.
If this were not hits you, but whenever a creature attacks you, it takes the damage, that would be so much more useful. And okay, that would be OP at lower levels, not OP at later levels, but definitely giving some more tactical usage out of this. Because again, D6 force damage, once you're hitting, probably 6th level, 8th level, 10th level, goodbye, who cares? That's not going to affect most.
But then those enemies are going to maybe have multiple attacks. So each time they hit you, they're going to take that D6. So it does scale in that way. The more you're getting hit, the more damage you're dishing out from it.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, so better than I think it is. But yeah, all right. At 6, you get you're surrounded by multicolored protective lights. You gain a +1 bonus to AC, and any of your allies within 10 feet of you also gain the same bonus, so long as they remain within 10 feet of you. Low levels, I think this is really powerful. High levels, I think it's not so. I mean, that's...
low levels it's really good. High levels it's okay. An extra bonus to AC it's always appreciated. Again, it doesn't cost you anything, so it's okay.
Yeah.
I think that's the theme with most of these.
Yes, exactly. Oh yeah, okay. It's the present that you didn't know you wanted, and still not sure you wanted, but at the same time, at least you're not having to pay for. So
you should have to buy your own socks.
Yeah, exactly. It's that Christmas present, isn't it? 7 flowers and vines. Basically, 7 is a sort of weak entangle. You temporarily get flowers and vines around you. Although, so I say weak, it's 15 feet of you. It's difficult terrain for your enemies, so that's nice. It's not for your friends.
Yeah.
None of these wild magic effects are negative to you or your allies, which is interesting. That's not what I expected when I saw the subclass. So that's okay. I might have actually preferred it if they'd made these more powerful, but had the chance of it going wrong.
Yeah.
That would
perhaps.
have been what I'd have done. But there we go. What do I know? I'm not a game designer. And number, I don't know if there's anything you want to say about number 7.
Again, it's okay. But as a barbarian, I want my enemies to get closer to me, so I don't necessarily want to slow them down coming towards me. But maybe if one's trying to get out of range or get past me to my squishier allies behind, this is going to help.
Yeah, I see. My problem with this is battlefield control is only battlefield control when you control it. This is too random to be tactically useful. Yeah, you might roll this just when you needed it, but more often than not, you're going to be rolling this when it's maybe not the most useful thing you could have done. Anyway, this takes us on to number 8. Bolt of light shoots from your chest, and one creature within 30 feet of you that you can see has to make a Constitution saving throw, take 1d6 radiant damage on a failure, and be blinded until the start of your next turn. And throughout your rage, you can use a bonus action to try again.
It's okay. It's a very
It's
weak Iron Man chest cannon, right?
Yeah, if you're multi-classing as an artificer. It would be very useful if you could choose this, and it would be very useful. I mean, it's only one creature, and they're effectively getting a saving throw every turn.
Yeah.
So,
and you do get. So we'll come on to it, but later on, you do get the more control over what these effects are.
Slightly
more, but yeah.
Randomly, slightly more control.
So none of them hurt you or your party. None of them particularly take away from being a barbarian. But they're all pretty much just okay.
Yeah. But that's the key feature, and everything else sort of builds off that to some extent, except the next one maybe.
So level 6 feature is bolstering magic, and you can harness your wild magic to bolster yourself or a companion. So as an action, you can touch a creature, which could be yourself, and give them one of these benefits, which you can choose when you do that. So either for 10 minutes, the creature can roll a d3 whenever making an attack roll or an ability check, and add the number rolled to the d20 roll. Or roll a d3, the creature regains 1 expended spell slot, the level of which equals the number rolled or lower, the creature's choice, the recipient's choice. And once a creature has received this benefit, they can't receive it again until after a long rest. And you can do that a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all the uses after your own long rest.
It's useful.
Yeah, it's useful. So the first option is as a kind of a low-powered guidance or low-powered bardic inspiration type effect.
Would it stack with those?
It would stack with those, yeah, because it doesn't say it doesn't. So you could stack that with guidance. You could stack that with a bardic inspiration. Potentially,
could be quite.
Potentially, making the fighter be able to hit that, or yourself even be able to hit that particularly tough to hit enemy. Which is not too bad. The second one, make friends with all your spellcasters.
Yes.
You share that wild magic with them. For some casters, getting a spell slot back is going to be really, really useful.
If you can give your wizard or sorcerer another casting of fireball.
Yeah, they're always going to be happy.
Yeah, but it's interesting. So the way I read this, the spell slot can only be used once per long rest on a given creature, but you could still give that creature another use of this to get the D3 bonus. Yeah. So it's not as limited as that. Yeah, it's good. This is probably the feature that I like the most about this. Yeah,
and it comes online at 6th level, which is a good level for it to come online at. It
leads us on to unstable backlash at 10th level. where magic will lash out to protect you or retaliate for you taking harm. So whenever you take damage or fail a saving throw while raging, you can use your reaction to roll on the wild magic table immediately to produce the effect rolled, and that replaces your current wild magic effect. So this is giving you the chance to change. If you've got something you didn't like on the table, you have another bite of the cherry. But again, it's random. The only good thing about this is that you choose whether or not to use your reaction to make that roll. So if you've already got something that fits the circumstances and you've lucked out, you're not going to want to use your reaction, I wouldn't have thought.
No,
but it does take your reaction is the problem.
Yeah, but if you've got something on the table that really isn't helping you, this gives you a chance to re-roll. It's a 10th level feature. It's a little bit underwhelming for a feature of that level, I feel.
Yes.
I would maybe have liked the capstone at this level, which we'll come on to in a moment, and something else for the capstone feature.
Having looked through all these subclasses, barbarian subclasses, their 10th level features tend to be somewhat, I mean, I wouldn't say underwhelming, but they tend not to be very combat oriented. Yeah. They tend to be I'm not going to use that the FL word, which I have a tendency to, but they tend to be about the character concept. Yeah. This is more combat oriented than a lot of the other 10th level features, but it's not very. It's okay. It's
okay. It's okay.
Let's hurry on to the capstone.
Do we need it? I'm not sure we do. The capstone ability, Controlled Surge at 14th level, Path of Wild Magic feature. So whenever you roll on the Wild Magic table, you get to roll the die twice and choose which of the two effects to unleash. And if you roll the same number, you can ignore the number and choose any effect on the table. And this is okay. This is nice. Gives you a bit of control over those wild magic features. A little bit of control.
I don't really agree.
Is it a capstone ability? I don't think so.
This is okay. It fits it being wild magic, but I mean, I would say if I got my grubby mitts on this subclass, I'd do quite a few changes. I would change the table. I would have it have a downside, but then increase the strength of the upsides. And I would add this feature would be you roll. I'd scale it so you rolled a number of times on the table, and each of the effects took place.
Okay.
So yeah, it could be potentially very OP'd at times, and other times a total liability. But that's this subclass you don't take as a player unless you like mucking about a little bit. I think this is the chaos element. This is the let's get a bit crazy in this combat because who knows what's going to happen. That can be really fun, and they played it way too safe with this.
They did, yeah. Like I said, this is a class that's ideal for that player that likes to inject some chaos and some unpredictability. And it's one that I looked at and I thought this could be really nice, and I'm just really underwhelmed by it. In the right campaign with the right player and the right dungeon master, it can be a really nice class to play, I think. So I'd put it in there with the Path of the Storm Herald as being okay and possibly good in the right campaign. It's not as bad as the Berserker.
I mean, my problem with all of these subclasses is you are potentially, some of them are really, I mean, from a role-playing perspective, I like this. I like the Path of the Beast. I like lots of the subclasses of Barbarian. They're really thoughtful in terms of character concept, but mechanically, some of them are so outclassed by two particular subclasses.
Yeah.
We don't need to say their names because it's obvious. That when you then making the decision to take one of these subclasses because you like the role playing, you like the concept, you're paying too much. Yeah. For me, D&D 5th edition is great with its balance between classes, and it's not very good when it's balanced between subclasses on a purely on paper mechanical estimation. In play, I haven't played one of these barbarians, so my opinion is less valid than it might be perhaps if I had. maybe this isn't as bad as I think it is. But
I
it would frustrate me if
I think when it comes to role playing, any of the subclasses for any of the classes are perfectly valid, and you will have a good time role playing that subclass. What we've been interested in is like you say, the mechanics. the power of the class when compared to the subclass when compared to other subclasses. And right across the board, you're right, they don't come off equal, and we will do a series of videos on each of the classes, comparing our thoughts on those subclasses. And let us know your thoughts on the Barbarian class in general, what you think about our opinions of these subclasses. Let's keep the conversation going. Let's have a debate about this stuff. And as always, while you're there, don't forget to like and subscribe and perhaps share this video, so that we can keep this channel going if you like what you've heard so far.